When I was doing my videos on the iPhone SE for 2022, I kept getting a lot of comments, people saying, well, if I'm going to spend $399, I want to at least be able to get an OLED and a newer design when it comes to my iPhone. And that's a perfectly valid opinion to have. But if you're going to be getting an iPhone used or Amazon renewed, which is what I suggest, the link to that will be in the description. We'll talk about why that particular part is important a little bit later in the video. But if you're going to go renewed or used for your iPhone, I do think there are some things that you have to watch out for. Maybe not to save money, but certainly to make sure that you're getting the most out of the money that you do spend. And that's what I want to talk about today. It's not going to be the simple, the obvious stuff, right? I assume that everybody watching this video, your eyes are connected to your brain. If it looks like it fell out of a third floor window, don't buy it. If it's cracked up, if it's busted up, if the aluminum frame, things like that, we're going to stick away from. These are more the intangibles, the things that you choose on the device itself that you could steer clear of, or at least make sure that you have the proper spec. The first one, storage. If you're going back for an older iPhone 7, which I'd actually recommend against because they're going to be dropping support for the iPhone 7 this year with iOS 16, but it's still a perfectly valid device. There's great prices on it. Amazon, I think it's $130 for a fantastic pristine iPhone 7. The problem is that the base storage for the iPhone 7 came in at 32 gigabytes. And I don't care what you're coming from. You might be coming from an iPhone 5, an iPhone 6, and say, well, I had 16 back in the day. It's a lot different now. Just on this is an iPhone XS. The iOS system storage alone took up 14 gigabytes. So go ahead, look in your storage, see how much you're using now. And if you're using, I don't know, 10, 15, you just got to keep adding to that. Because iPhone storage has a way of ballooning in on itself. Because your legacy iPhone people, you're bringing your old photos and videos and all your apps from your old iPhone, putting it on the new one. Then you're going to put that new and onto the next one. And it just kind of builds on itself until you don't have room anymore. There is an iPad Air from back in the day that had 16 gigs that I can't even update anymore because there's no space to get iPad OS or iOS on the thing in order to be able to use it. 32 gigs, and on the iPhone 8, the base storage was 64 gigs. Even all the way up to the XS, base storage was 64 gigs. Ignore that. I know you think you're saving $20, $30, $40 on the renewed market, the used market. Do yourself a favor. Spend the extra $40 because in 2 or 3 years, when you've filled this thing up and you've got 256 instead of 64, you're going to be thanking yourself for being nice to yourself and buying that little bit of extra storage. It makes a difference with iOS and iPhones. Trust me. Don't get the base storage. They always under-storage their devices on the low end. 32 is a joke in the iPhone 7, and 64 all the way up to the iPhone XS will not get you through. Like I said, the iOS system alone is 15 gigs on here. Then you add photos, then you add messages and all the rest of it, and it fills up fast. Be a friend to yourself. Get the extra storage. The other thing is, be mindful of how much support these devices have left on them. That was a surprise announcement this year, that the iPhone 7 support was going to be dropping off. Normally, in their kind of update cycle or their support cycle, the iPhone 7 would have been supported for one more year, getting iOS 16. So, if you're getting an iPhone XS, you're expecting at least 2 more years of storage, 2 more years of updates, if not 3. iPhone 8, you'd expect another year after iOS 16, but you don't know. This new schedule, maybe they're dropping stuff off a little bit early after 5 or 6 years as opposed to their regular 7. Be mindful of that. If you're somebody who keeps their devices 3, 4, 5 years, spend a little extra, save up a little bit, whatever you got to do, and get yourself the most iPhone you could afford, because that way you're getting the most recent updates for iOS, whatever it is, 16, 17. And a lot of the appeal of having an iPhone is being part of the iOS ecosystem. So you want to enjoy that for as long as possible. You want to be getting all the cool new features to have on your iPhone. So go ahead, make sure, if you're an iPhone 7, you're not getting iOS 16. So be mindful of that. The prices are a little bit cheaper now, but they're not going to be supported by Apple. You might get security updates, but you're not going to get the new features that come with iOS. iPhone 8 and forward, you're still supported for another year, but be mindful of that. iOS XS, iPhone XS, I think, is the sweet spot right now, sub $300. This is actually going to get its own video at the end of the week because I think it's that good of a deal. Here's the biggest one, though, and it really is super important, and this is when we're going to talk about Amazon Renewed. Battery. I understand that we talk a lot about how fantastic iPhone is with battery, but understand that's a recent phenomenon. It really is. pre-iPhone 13, the iPhone batteries weren't that good. And it wasn't that the A series chips were not power efficient, is that they usually put very small batteries in this. If you weren't getting the max version of whatever iPhone, or the plus version, or whatever it happened to be, you weren't getting a very big battery. And with my iPhone 12 Pro, iPhone 10s, these would drain. And I'm going to show you, this is how important this is. All right, Steve Licious is actually going to have a B-roll in a video. That's how important this bit is. But I'm going to show you how to check this. You go into settings, you go into battery, and then you see it right there, battery health. Go ahead and click on that. This particular one is at 93%, which is quite good. I think you want to be in the upper 80s, low 90s for a device of this age in order to be able to get through at least most of your day. At least be somewhat happy with your battery life on your iPhone. It's one of the most important things you can think about when buying a used iPhone, because the batteries back then were small and they didn't last that long. If you're sub 80%, you might be thinking about a battery replacement in order to get through your entire day. And the great thing about Amazon Renewed is they have to guarantee with your iPhone that you're getting at least 80%. And the bit on the Renewed Premium or whatever it is, the slightly more expensive ones, they have to promise you 90% on the battery, which for a couple extra bucks is absolutely worth it. That to me is the most important bit when it comes to iPhone batteries. They did not age well for whatever reason. When they got cycles on them, they degraded. I've seen some wild numbers on devices that are not that old. 93 is actually pretty darn good. This was my personal device. I daily drove for 2 years. I still had 93%. I've seen in the 70s, which is just absolutely not going to get the job done. Buying an iPhone used, buying one renewed, absolutely fantastic deals to be had. You can get a lot for your money. Sub $400 as opposed to getting the iPhone SE. You could get iPhone XS Max. You could maybe squeeze out an iPhone 11. That'll get you through. Want to spend a few more bucks? You could get an iPhone 11 for sure. iPhone 11 Pro. There's options there. There's options to spend less money and still get into the Apple ecosystem. But if you're looking at a used iPhone, those are the three things that I would definitely hone in on. Know what updates you're going to be getting in the future on the device. Watch out for the storage. Don't get that base storage if it's 64 gigs, 128, 256 minimum, because you're going to be filling it up. And battery. Make sure that battery health is okay, because you want to be able to make it through your day with your battery and be happy with your purchase. Other than that, happy hunting. You'll enjoy it. It's great to being part of the iOS ecosystem, and you could do so without spending $1,100. If you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have that Steve-licious day.